Hey guys, welcome to the first video for Let Me Fix It TV. I'm a 24-year-old computer engineer and software developer, and I like to play with different gadgets, take things apart, modify them to my liking, and wanted to start a YouTube channel to basically show you guys how I do it, what I do, and hopefully help some people out down the line. So we'll go ahead and get started. First product I wanted to show you guys is the FeiYu Tech G4 3-axis GoPro Handheld Gimbal. It's already charged up, so this isn't truly an unboxing video, but go ahead and here. So here's what it looks like out of the box. Now, before I play with it too much, I wanted to do firmware update, make sure everything is up to the newest version, so we can make sure we get all the new features and play with everything. So it's a little mini USB mini port on the back. You got to make sure when you plug this into the computer that you use the little USB adapter that they give you. I'm guessing this just has some diodes in it. I'll explain what this is for later, but for now just make sure you plug it into your USB cable before you plug it into the computer. You also want to make sure all the batteries are out before you use it, especially since my batteries are fully charged right now. Take those out. Looks like the light comes on, and the little light right here flashes repeatedly. Hoping that's a good sign. We'll find out in a little bit. Alright, so there's instructions inside of it. I've already read through them, have a pretty good idea. So I went ahead to FeiYu Tech's website, and we're going to go ahead and try to download this firmware update. First off, you want to leave these unplugged at the beginning. I've got the firmware upgrade software, I've got the firmware file, and I've got the settings software installed. So we'll just try this out. Plug the adapter into the computer first, but without the gimbal actually plugged into it. It'll pop up with the CP20 or CP210 Silicon Labs device in your device manager. You actually want to go into that and double check that the port settings have the baud rate set to 115/200. Mine was set to 9600 by default. I'm not sure if that was causing problems or not, but you want to make sure everything matches up. So 115/200 and the baud rate in device manager for that. You also want to check while you're in the device manager and remember what COM port that device says it is. So mine's COM 5, so we just got to remember that so we make sure we're doing it on the right port. Once we have all that, we'll go back to the upgrade software. Here it is. And run that. Make sure you have, again, the right COM port selected on the first drop down, and on the second drop down make sure it says 115/200, and go ahead and hit open. Now it's not going to say anything when you hit open, you just have to make sure that the button switches to close so you know that it's open. So now it's actually communicating with this dongle that we plugged in, and so we can go ahead and plug the gimbal in, and when you do that, it should pop up and say link OK, and then it will give you the version number of the software that's currently on the gimbal. In this case, I actually already upgraded the firmware, but I'm going to do it again just to show you. So mine says link OK version 1.11. So now we're going to hit open file and bring up the firmware file that we downloaded. and then click Update. When you click Update, it'll say send block and then a number and OK, and it'll count up. And it goes around, I think, twice if I remember right. And you can see the LED on the gimbal blinking a little bit, so you can see that the data is transferring and everything's working right. Make sure you don't unplug anything while it's doing this, or turn anything off, press any buttons. It's a good way to brick a device and make it unusable whenever you're updating firmware. So we're just going to let that go, not touch anything. And then it pops up a window that says send OK. So it's done. Hit OK. Close out of that. And now we can bring up the gimbal settings program. And this is specific. This is version 1.1. It's only usable if you have that newest firmware, the version 1.11 firmware. So go ahead and run that. And again, this is the same thing. Let's start that over. Before you start that software, you want to plug in just the dongle. Then start the software. Make sure it has the right COM port and baud rate selected. Go ahead and hit open. Again, it won't say anything once it's open, it'll just change to a closed button. Now that that's open, we can go ahead and plug in the gimbal. And it will say connect FY gimbal success at the bottom. So we know it's good to go. It takes a couple seconds, it'll eventually say read parameters success. And we know we can go ahead and change things. So now if I want to change the heading following mode to slow, I can do that. And then just hit save. So now it'll use that setting on startup. I'm actually going to set it to normal for the demo. Alright, so looks like we actually want to turn this guy on to do those settings. Now whenever you turn this on, it needs some weight in the crate, otherwise it will gets into a weird shaking state, trying to fix itself back and forth with no weight in there. It gets a little bouncy. There we go. Now, since we took out the batteries in the gimbal, I'm not sure if this is going to work. Let's go ahead and find out. Have to actually put the batteries back in. Oh, wait. Alright, so now that we got the batteries in here, I've got some weight on the gimbal. If we want to make the adjustments, we need to make sure it's static. So set it down, make sure everything is like this. That'll let it calibrate properly on startup. So we'll go ahead and hit start on the settings. It will move itself. But now the plus and minus buttons on the attitude correction should be good to go. Now we can stop and close. Alright, so firmware's up to date. Everything is calibrated, adjusted, and good to go. So I'll go ahead and turn this, go ahead and unplug this. Now, before I actually get to the feature demonstration on this and the full review, we actually have to make an extra little piece of hardware. So the mini USB port that's actually on the back of this that we just used for the firmware update. When you have that firmware update, you can use that port to actually power a GoPro. Unfortunately, this is a device style port, and the port on the GoPro is also device style. So normal cables that look like this have mini on one end, normal USB on the other. Can't use that. Obviously, if I plug this into here, I can't plug this into a GoPro. So they have cables out there. They're rare because this is a really specific use case for this sort of cable. So we're just going to make basically like two of these. I have two of these short little cables, and I'm just going to splice them together like this. So we have many on both ends. And then hopefully, if all goes well, that will be able to be used to power the GoPro. So we'll go and give that a shot. And give it a quick test. I'm going to test it with the battery charger that came with it. It has some lights right here, so it'll tell me if I'm getting power or not. Put that in there, and there you go. And tighten those up. Alright, so right now, if I let go of this guy, it doesn't work so well. So let's go ahead and turn it on. Button on the bottom. Maybe. Alright, so now we're up and running. Let's go through the features on this thing real quick. Alright, so one thing I saw in the manual is if ever it's acting up a little bit, what you want to do is turn it off, set it down so that it's stationary and level. So since we got this stuff in there, then turn it on. It'll auto calibrate that way, and then you can pick it up. Alright, so there's a problem in the firmware. We're supposed to have 3 basic settings and then inversion mode on this. I'll show you the first 2 and explain what the third one's supposed to do, but currently it's broken, so something's wrong with this firmware that we just upgraded today, and I'll explain that and look at that later. So there's a single button on the thumb side right here, the blue blinking one. That's all the operations that you have right there. So first mode is a single click, and that is the heading follow only mode. So you can see as I twist this handle, it follows me a little bit, but when I try to tilt it, it stays looking straight ahead. And if I try to tilt it forward and backwards, the roll, or the pitch, excuse me, stays the same. So we got pitch lock, roll lock, heading follow. You press the button twice, the button on the back will start blinking twice, so that means you're in the second mode. And that second mode is pitch follow and heading follow. So now if I tilt up, tilt down, it follows that movement slowly. If I twist, it follows that movement, but we're still locked in terms of roll. Alright, and then the third setting is supposed to be in all lock mode. So you press and hold the button for a second, and it turns to solid blue. This mode is supposed to lock heading, roll, and pitch, and basically just keep the camera facing whatever direction you set it on, and not move anything, no matter where you move, twist the handle, or do anything. Fortunately, something in that new firmware doesn't like this mode, because the camera is flopping right now, so that's not good. Something is obviously not set right. I'll have to go and check out those settings and see what I can figure out. But any 3 of these modes, when it is working, you can turn on the inversion mode by pressing the button 3 times. So we'll go back to setting number 1. So we're back in setting number 1, everything's working. Press the button 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now it's in inversion mode. So it's expecting the camera to be held upside down like this. So now you can get those nice, smooth, low shots, and it helps for if you're running. Oops. If you're running or something like that, you can hold the handle sideways, kind of like this, and it helps with a lot of that movement from your running, smoothing it out. So there we go, that's inversion mode. Inversion mode you can also set for, there we go, so now it's blinking twice. Now it's doing pitch follow as well as heading follow. And again, you're supposed to be able to press and hold that button for a second to go into all lock. But again, the camera flops. So again, something's wrong with that firmware, so we'll check that out later. Alright, now we're out of inversion mode. Let's try this again. So you can see we're running off battery right now. Plugged in cable down here. Plug in the other side. Right connector. And now, hopefully, there you go. So you can see at the bottom, you got the battery light blinking at the bottom of the LCD. So we are charging right now. Now I'll have to go and look at this video later, see how much this cable is getting in the shot. I might have to hold it back with my finger or something. Maybe I'll cut this a little shorter. I don't know, but it's working. It's charging the GoPro from the internal battery in the gimbal, and it's working. Alright, so that concludes the video for the new FeiYu Tech G4 3-axis handheld GoPro gimbal. Overall, I'd say this thing is awesome, but the problems with the firmware are a little disconcerting. So I might have to continue this review later once I figure out what's wrong with that. The single button operation is awesome. It's big. You don't have to be focused on which button you're pressing. There's only one to press, so that's good. Price point, this one's a little bit more expensive than the G3. I think this one was around $360. I heard good reviews on the FunnyGo as well, which is at a very similar price point, and I unfortunately just couldn't get that from Amazon, which is where I was trying to order things from, so I went with this one instead. So far I like it, but we're gonna have to play around with the firmware and see what I can do with that strange setting. Alright, so that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you like the video and subscribe so you can see what we have next. Thanks, bye.